What's going on, people? Today we got a banger of a video coming up. This is my top 15 pound for pound fighters in the UFC list. Now, I tend to disagree with the official list that they have a lot of the time. So I made my own list, and I'm going to share that with you today. This list isn't a list where you're a champion, so you have to be at a certain, level, or you sell us a lot of pay-per-views, so you have to be at a certain level. It's not about that. It's about who is the best pound-for-pound fighter on the planet. And let's not get that definition mixed up. It's not about, oh, this person went up in weight and lost to this person, so that means they're not as good. It's pound for pound. If you were the same size, who would be better? So, I'm going to tell you guys exactly how I have this laid out. The 15 best fighters in the UFC. If I had to pick 15 fighters from the UFC to represent me, these are the guys I would pick if I needed 15 wins. You know what I'm saying? But guys, before I start, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I'm consistently getting about 100, 200, sometimes even 600 views on my videos, but I got 20 subscribers. It's really not that hard if you think about it. You press a button and boom, you're already done. Step 1, press the button. There is no step 2. Just hit it. And also don't forget that this weekend we got the trilogy, the epic trilogy between Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare, Usman. That was rough. And Leon Rocky Edwards. And I'm going to be dropping a prediction video for that tomorrow night. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. I'll be predicting that as well as going over some of the highlights of the card. But without further ado, let's get into Paulie Pick's current top 15 pound-for-pound list. This list may change because we got a title fight this weekend, but let's get into it. Ready? At number 15, I have Colby Chaos Covington. This man is a machine of pace. He throws a volume of strikes. He's even thrown some slick strikes in his career. He missed on a crazy spinning kick and then landed a huge back fist on Robbie Lawler. He had George Masvidal up against the fence in trouble in a striking exchange. He's landed huge shots on Kamaru Usman, wobbled him multiple times. He's proven that his wrestling control, grouped with his pace, is just too much for most people to deal with. Sorry if you guys can hear that dog barking outside. What are you gonna do? But yeah, he's a very great fighter. He doesn't fight as often as I would like, but you can't deny his skill. Do I think he handpicks some of his fights here and there? I do, but you can't deny the fact that the dude is uberly skilled. He's probably the guy so far that's fought in Kamaru Usman that's fought him the hardest. I know Leon knocked him out, but the fight wasn't as competitive as either Colby fight. I actually scored the second Colby fight for Colby against Usman, and I had Colby winning in the first fight before he got finished. So Colby Covington is right up there. I would love to see him fight Kamaru Usman again at one point. I mean, those two are just perfect kind of rivalry. The whole fight week is fun. Colby brings the entertainment. Love him or hate him, he brings the entertainment. He's a great fighter, and I can't wait to see him step into the octagon again. Number 14, we got the UFC middleweight champion, Alex Poatan Pereira. This man has devastating power. Devastating power. This guy's so explosive. If you've ever watched any of his kickboxing fights, he's beaten world-class, world champion kickboxers, guys that you probably don't even know about if you don't follow the sport of kickboxing. He has 2 kickboxing wins over Israel Adesanya. Not that these matter in terms of MMA, but I'm just trying to display to you guys how good of a striker this guy is. He's technical and he has brilliant power. He's only fought 2 guys really that were ranked high in the UFC, although Bruno Silva is a very formidable fighter, and he put Alex through his paces a lot of that fight, but Alex wound up getting the win. But Alex made short work of Sean Strickland, knocked him out, made it look easy, and then he wound up fighting Israel Adesanya, and it was similar to the Leon Rocky Edwards and Kamaru Usman fight where Izzy was controlling most of the fight, and then at the end, all it takes is one. If you've ever seen Alex Pereira hit the pads, it's some of the scariest stuff you'll ever see in your life. The guy is devastating. He's a very intimidating fella. He's huge for the weight class, yet he always makes weight. He's a real professional. And it's going to be hard for Izzy in the rematch with him. It's going to be interesting. So, yeah, I got Alex Pereira at number 14. At number 13, I have the UFC Bantamweight champion, Aljamain, the Funk Master Sterling, out of that Longo Serra camp. One of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in all of the UFC. The guy's a human backpack. You guys swore to God Petr Yan was going to be a long reigning champion, and Aljamain Sterling got on his back and rode his way to victory. He also dominated an injured TJ Dillashaw, but nonetheless, you step in the cage, you put your reputation on the line, and Aljamain Sterling got it done. Aljamain Sterling's had wars with Pedro Munoz. Aljamain Sterling made short, quick work of Corey Sandhagen. Aljamain has sneaky, awkward striking too. His entries are awkward. He throws a lot of step-in elbows, a lot of flying knees, to go along with his incredible grappling pedigree. So, yeah, I got Aljamain Sterling at number 13. At number 12, another world champion, a new world champion, the UFC light heavyweight undisputed champion, Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill. This guy is bad, man. He's got some serious power. He's a very smart striker. People don't give him a lot of credit for being so technical, but he really is technical on the feet. He proved in the Glover fight that he can grapple. He can defend grappling very well. He had that one slip up against Paul Craig, but it is what it is. Everybody loses. He got caught going into Craig's guard for some reason. And, yeah, but lately, he's made short work of Johnny Walker. He beat Thiago Santos in a fight that was probably harder than it needed to be for him, but nonetheless, he got it done, and I'm pretty sure he finished that fight, if I'm remembering. So, yeah, and then beating Glover in the way that he did was very fascinating, and I do believe that Jamal he has a really good chance of beating Yuri Prochazka, too. So, all credit to Jamal Hill, and that's why I got him at number 12 on the list. Number 11 is yet another world champion, the UFC men's flyweight world champion, Brandon Moreno. This guy came from humble beginnings. He didn't always have the easiest go in the UFC, but he wound up finding his way to the top eventually. He had an amazing 4 fights with Deiveson Figueiredo, finished them twice. Even the third fight that Deiveson won was very, very close and competitive. Brandon Moreno's got great striking, good grappling. The way he landed that nasty kick on Kai Kara France was ridiculous. Brandon Moreno's the full package, and he's a Mexican warrior. We all know Mexican fighters come for war, and they can take a lot of damage and dish a lot out. I really like watching Brandon. He's a pleasure to watch. His boxing's clean. And I can't wait to see his fight with Pantoja. But for now, I got Brandon Moreno at number 11. Number 10 is another UFC world champion. The UFC welterweight champion who is defending his belt in 2 days, Leon Rocky Edwards. This guy is very well-rounded. He used to not be as well-rounded, but I think that first loss to Kamaru Usman struck a chord with him. He has looked dominant in grappling exchanges against Gunnar Nelson. He's looked dominant in grappling exchanges against Kamaru Usman in the first round of their last fight. He uses grappling to his effect now, and pair that with some of the most technical striking you'll ever see. He hits the pads. He's so technical. Like, he just knows what he's doing as far as striking goes. He has nasty feints. He's very patient. Leon Edwards is on a big win streak apart from the no contest with Bilal Muhammad. The only time he's really looked vulnerable was in Utah, where, it's higher altitude, and I think that really affected his cardio. And on top of that, he got cracked by Nate Diaz. But again, everybody gets hit. That's the sport that we're talking about here. But yeah, I got number 10 as Leon Edwards, and we'll see if he can move up or down depending on his performance this weekend. Number 9, in my opinion, the best 205-pounder on the planet, Magomed Ankalaev. This dude is a menace. Not only is he a great grappler and a very good striker, but in the Jan Blachowicz fight, he proved that he can fight through adversity like a champion. His legs were all but gone less than halfway through that fight, and he dogged it out all the way till the end and found a way to, in my opinion, clearly win that fight. But, the judges sometimes a little bit iffy. Magomed Ankalaev beat Anthony Smith. Magomed Ankalaev, in my opinion, beat Jan Blachowicz. He's got some solid wins on his record. Paired with his just unreal skill set, I think this dude will definitely be a champion in short order. I just hope the UFC gives him the opportunity to do so because he's a tremendous talent. Number 8, Shavkat Rakhmonov. This guy is a monster, and I know he hasn't fought that upper echelon yet, but I guarantee it's because they won't fight him. And also, the top of welterweight has always kind of been like people that like to hold their spot. Like a lot of people at welterweight don't really want to risk their spot. And that's been a problem for quite a few years now, even dating back to when Tyron Woodley was the champion. But nonetheless, Shavkat has blown through people like Neil Magny on the grappling, and then he had a stand-up war with Jeff Neal, and I'd say he won most of the striking exchanges against Jeff, and Jeff didn't even make weight. So, he was in there with a bigger guy. We all know the fighters that don't make weight usually win, so they are clearly, statistically speaking, they're at an advantage. Didn't matter to Shavkat. He took bangs in that fight. He gave bangs in that fight. He showed me a whole nother piece of his game that I didn't even know he really had like that. He's so well-rounded, just like I was saying about Leon. He's very well-rounded. He's got that dog in him. He's got cardio. He's a machine, and I do think that he will be in a title fight soon, granted the UFC allows that to happen. Number 7, Max Blessed Holloway, future UFC Hall of Famer, one of the best featherweights on the planet, and this guy has been putting up numbers on people in fights. I think most of the top striking performances ever come from Max as far as volume goes, punches landed. Max takes a lot of punches too, but he's never been knocked down. He's never been knocked out. He's hardly even been wobbled, really. I don't even think he's really ever been wobbled. He's been hit with some hard shots, but I wouldn't say he was wobbled. Max has shown the ability to switch it up to the grappling when he needs to, like the Yair Rodriguez fight. Yair also caught him with some huge shots that Max just didn't even fucking look fazed by. Oh, I said the F word, but whatever. And then Max went into a fight with Brian Ortega where nobody thought he even had a chance. They thought he couldn't make 45 anymore, and he absolutely masterclassed Brian Ortega. He absolutely smoked Calvin Kattar, and he definitely won the second Volkanovski fight. Like, everybody knows that pretty clearly. And yeah, he lost 1 and 3 to Volk, but even putting up a good fight against Volk says a lot, let alone arguably winning one of the fights. And in my opinion, he definitely won that fight. So, yeah, I mean, I know he lost to Volkanovski, and a lot of people hang their heads on that and say Max is on the downside, but really, Max hasn't shown to be on the downside yet. Let's not count him out yet. Volkanovski is just that guy. Like, let's just be honest. Number 6, Islam Makhachev, the 155-pound champion. Now, the reason why he is number 6 and not a little bit higher on my list is because I think Alex Volkanovski proved that he is not as dominant as we thought. He is most definitely not Khabib. Also, look at the wins he has. He beat Charles Oliveira. And Charles has really, really, really bad striking defense. Let's just be honest. He threw a step-in knee with both of his hands down, and Islam caught him with a hook. I wasn't overly impressed by that. I know a lot of people who are casual fans of the sport were just like, oh, look, he landed a big strike. He can strike. Like, nah, he can't really strike that well. I'm not saying he can't strike at all, but he can't strike that well. Let's be honest, guys. And, yeah, he beat Bobby Green, like, on short notice. You beat Bobby Green, like, big deal. But as far as his skill set goes, he's got great wrestling. He's shown good cardio throughout 3 rounds, but I don't know if it's because Volk was having success against him and providing resistance in the grappling, but he looked tired as hell against Volk. I know you can train as hard as you want and get as much cardio and conditioning in as you want, but when you have to cut to 155 pounds and you probably shouldn't be fighting at 155 pounds, it's going to be taking its toll. And I don't see him moving up because, like Khabib, he probably should be at welterweight, but he's not. He just wants to take advantage of the smaller guys and try to use his strength to... That's what a lot of the grapplers tend to do. They try to cut down as much as possible so that the next day they can hydrate back up and the strength advantage won't even be a problem. But we saw what happens when there is resistance in his grappling. When Volkanovski provided resistance, he got very, very tired, and towards the end of that fight, he was getting destroyed. The second half of the 5th round, he was on his way. If there was a 6th round, he was getting finished. Let's be honest. So, yeah, I don't mean to sound down on him the whole time I'm supposed to be promoting him, but I just expected you guys to think that he is a little bit higher, so I'm just providing you with the reason why I have him at number 6. Don't get me wrong, the dude's a monster. He has a great skill set. He makes his striking a problem by presenting the threat of his grappling. It's mixed martial arts after all. The dude's a monster. I hope to see him fight Beneil Dariush, and if he beats Beneil Dariush and handily, I'll be able to give him a lot more credit than I can at this moment in time. But number 6 is Islam Makhachev. Number 5, another guy who is one of the most well-rounded fighters in the UFC, Mr. Robert the Reaper Whittaker. This guy has only really lost at middleweight to one guy. He's beaten the likes of Marvin Vettori, Jared Cannonier. He beat Yoel Romero twice in crazy fights. He fought a very good fight against Israel the second time around. He beat Kelvin Gastelum. He's got a nasty combination that he finishes with a high kick that people just fall for and fall for and fall for. He also beat Derek Brunson. He came from welterweight. He just has this problem with these lengthy strikers, like these lengthy technical strikers. Like he lost to Wonder Boy, he lost to Israel, but really any other style, Robert Whittaker eats them for breakfast. I believe that Robert Whittaker could take the belt off Pereira. I don't think Pereira is as good with the takedown defense and footwork as an Israel Adesanya or a Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Pereira is more of a he's still technical, but he doesn't have that style that gives Whittaker that big of a problem. Robert Whittaker's got great striking. He stomps the knees, he stomps the legs, he kicks the legs well. He's got good grappling offensively and defensively. He's got great proven 5-round cardio time and time again. He's got the names on his resume. And yeah, I don't see a world where Robert Whittaker is not one of the best fighters that walks planet Earth. Number 4, a guy who is just now getting the credit he deserves, Mr. Merab Dvalishvili. Dominated Petr Yan. Petr Yan was the boogeyman, and he dominated him 50-45 across the board. The output that he just put out this past weekend cannot be ignored. Don't tell me I'm a prisoner of the moment by putting him at number 4 in the whole UFC, because that cannot be ignored. The amount of takedowns he was able to shoot, the amount of strikes he was able to throw, and the ability to consistently do it across 25 minutes against one of the best fighters in the world and another guy who's one of the most well-rounded fighters in the world. The reason why I keep saying well-rounded is because that's what pound for pound is all about. But the fact that he was able to do that to Petr Yan is ridiculous. Pair that with the fact that he just beat Jose Aldo by completely outpacing him. Aldo really wasn't able to throw. He was kind of just waiting for an opportunity that was never coming. He also beat Marlon Moraes. He had a bit of a scare there, but he got it done. He's been dominating guys for years, and now he finally got a main event against a top-tier guy to prove how good he was, and he probably had his best performance that he's ever had. Amazing. And this guy's an animal. This guy's the best 135-pounder on the planet, and that's why I got him at number 4. Number 3, Israel, the last stylebender, Adesanya. This guy's a monster too. His technicality and his striking, his precision, his ability to stay composed in his fights, do what he needs to do. He brawls when he needs to brawl. He can keep the distance if he needs to. He doesn't look to take opportunities that aren't there. If he does buckle an opponent, he doesn't rush them. He picks them apart strategically, and people don't like that about him. People call him a boring fighter. If you're a fan of the technical side and the analytical side of fighting, you love Israel Adesanya's style. It's mesmerizing. It's a sight to behold. Even in the Alex Pereira fight, he was just looking so smooth. Like, he just wound up getting caught, and it is what it is. But I'll tell you what, Alex Pereira is not a better fighter than Izzy. It's problematic for Izzy, the style matchup, because Pereira is a longer guy than him, and Pereira has a technical striking style as well, and Pereira hits like 3 trucks. So I got Adesanya at number 3. He's got great takedown defense. Think about all the wrestlers he's fought. Yoel Romero, Marvin Vettori, Robert Whittaker, who was trying to wrestle him, Derek Brunson. There's been so many guys. Kelvin Gastelum wanted to wrestle him. There's been so many guys in the UFC. This guy, yeah, he's one of the pay-per-view kings in the UFC right now, and he may be one of the most popular fighters in the world, but he has not had an easy road by any stretch at all. He's got so many names on his record, it would rival any modern-day champion's resume. Since the beginning of him coming in the UFC, he has been fighting killer after killer after killer, and I love the fact that this guy is not scared to lose. He's not like your typical star. He does not care about wins and losses. He cares about fighting the best guys in the world and putting it all on the line. He fought Jan Blachowicz, and he was arguably winning that fight until Jan finally was able to get on top of him. And Jan even said it was hard to get on top of him initially. He had to engage in striking for a few rounds to try to get Izzy off guard, and then he was able to take him down. And a guy that's that much bigger than Adesanya should have probably been able to finish him from the top, but he didn't. Israel's a savage. I hate hearing the slander about him. He takes on every challenge, and he's one of the best pound-for-pound fighters on the planet right now. He's my number 3. Number 2, the brand new heavyweight champion of the world, Mr. Jon Bones Jones. Jon Bones Jones is what many people consider to be the greatest fighter of all time. He has so many names on his record, it would make your head spin. And the only reason why he's not number 1 is because we have to judge it off right now. So I think that he lost against Reyes pretty clearly. I've said that before in other videos, and I've been singing that since the day the fight happened because it was one of the most mind-blowing decisions I've ever seen. But nonetheless, like I said, for other guys on this list, everybody loses. He was able to dominate Anthony Smith. He was able to dominate Alexander Gustafsson. He was tested against Thiago Santos, but he survived it. And then this past fight, he blew the doors off Ciryl Gane. It wasn't even competitive. Ciryl Gane was the number 1 ranked heavyweight in the world. Jon Jones made his heavyweight debut and ran through him like butter. First round, easy money. Translated to heavyweight beautifully. I know a lot of people were body shaming, but whatever body he wants to bring in, it works for him. Jon is one of the smartest fighters on the planet, probably the smartest fighter on the planet. The guy can strike. The guy has some of the best parrying techniques in the whole UFC. He's able to follow the hands of his opponents and barely ever gets hit. The fact that he stays in range but doesn't get hit is so impressive. His clinch game is ridiculous. He can submit anybody. He can wrestle with guys like Daniel Cormier. He's just so well-rounded. He's so smart. He's got double champion. Well, he's a 2-weight world champion, and that's why I got him at number 2 right now. But number 1 is one of the greatest fighters I've ever seen with my 2 eyes, Alexander the Great Volkanovski. The way that this guy dismantled Max Holloway in their third fight just completely separated him from what I thought he was. I thought him and Max Holloway were neck and neck, and Max Holloway is my favorite fighter. They're not neck and neck. Nobody's neck and neck with Islam or with Alexander Volkanovski. The way he was able to go up, in my opinion, he clearly beat Islam as well. But even if you want to give the fight to Islam, you cannot deny the fact that going into that fight, nobody who's anybody gave Alexander Volkanovski a single chance to win that fight. I didn't. I thought, yeah, he's a great fighter, but he's too little. He's going to go in there and he's going to get outpowered, outskilled in the grappling, and he's going to probably get subbed early. Or maybe he'll get TKO'd in mount or something like that, or, a crucifix position, something. But Islam Makhachev's for sure going to get on top of him, overwhelm him, and finish him early. We were wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Alexander Volkanovski fought the fight of a lifetime, proved what the term pound for pound actually means. He's dominated Korean Zombie, dominated Max Holloway, which nobody does. Then he went up and proved that he may arguably be the best 155-pound fighter on the planet currently. Nobody in the UFC has maybe ever been more well-rounded than Alexander Volkanovski. He's shown the grit of a champion when he popped out of that guillotine that Brian Ortega had on him. Not some random striker who caught him in a guillotine. Brian Ortega, one of the nastiest guys in the UFC in jiu-jitsu, had a locked-up, mounted guillotine against him. And he popped out of it, beat the snot out of Ortega throughout the rest of that fight. And the guy is just unreal. His understanding of range, his understanding of what stance he needs to be in at what time. Nobody can touch him. His footwork is impeccable. Alexander Volkanovski is amazing, and that's why I got him at number 1 pound for pound in the UFC currently. So let me run through this list one more time for you guys. Number 15, Colby Covington. Number 14, Alex Pereira. Number 13, Aljamain Sterling. Number 12, Jamal Hill. Number 11, Brandon Moreno. Number 10, Leon Edwards. Number 9, Magomed Ankalaev. Number 8, Shavkat Rakhmonov. Number 7, Max Holloway. Number 6, Islam Makhachev. Number 5, Robert Whittaker. Number 4, Merab Dvalishvili. Number 3, Israel Adesanya. Number 2, John Jones. And number 1, Alexander Volkanovski. Let me know in the comments what list you guys have. Also, what you would swap out in my list. Do you think my list is accurate? Do you think I'm crazy? Let me know down below. Love y'all. See y'all soon.